Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we will see how we can send HTML data as a response to the client. So, first of all, let's create a folder, named it as serving HTML. Let's open it using VS Code. So, we have opened our folder using VS Code. Now, let's create our server. So, let's create a file called server.js. Now let's create our server. So for that, write const http equals require http. Now const server equals to http dot create server. Now it will take a response handler function. So let's pass function with request and response, and let's send a response this.end. First let's listen to the server on any port. So write server.listen port number 5000. So it will listen to port number 5000 and pass the function as console.log server is running on port 5000. So let's open our terminal and write Nodemon server.js. So our server is started. Let's go to Chrome and write localhost 5000 localhost 5000. So we haven't sent it any response, so let's write anything server serving HTML. Let's go back to browser, server serving HTML. So we got this text in the browser window. Now let's inspect this and let's introduce the terms like response headers. Go to the network tab, reload this again, so you can see the requests that are made. It is the favicon request. So browser by default made a favicon request. Favicon is nothing but an icon which you can see here in any website. Right now it is localhost, so we haven't passed any favicon, so it will not display. But if you go to any website, you will see an icon here which is called as favicon. So it will request a favicon. Now this is the path, this is the default route which is requested. So if you go here, then you can see that the connection is keeping alive, and you can see in the general tab the request URL is a root URL, and the request method is get. Status code is 200, means okay. You can see the status code is 200 means successful. Status code is nothing but a response code, which is a 3-digit code. You must have knowledge about 404 not found status code or 200 successful status code. And then we have response headers. Now what are response headers? So response headers tells us what kind of response is coming from the server. It tells about the kind of response we send to the client, and any additional information which you want to send from server to browser. You need to put it in a header, that is called as response header. Now how to serve HTML text. Now this is the normal text we have sent here, but we want to send HTML text. So how we can do this? Okay, so let's go here and write HTML tag h1. You know that the h1 is an HTML tag. You can write here server serving HTML. So it is a heading tag. You will see a bold text there. Server is started automatically by Nodemon, and here it is serving HTML. So now if we go to localhost and if we think see request here URL is same, status code is same, connection is keeping allow. I want to see something. So response is this, server is serving HTML means h1. Now you can see here the type of favicon request is text or HTML, means the response it expect as a text or HTML. This expects as a document. Now let's serve our headers. We can write headers using res dot write head. This is a property. It is an inbuilt property of HTTP module which sends a response header to request. It accepts three parameters which are status code, response code, a status message which is optional, and headers. The status code is a 3-digit HTTP status code like 404 or 200 which tells us about a response being successful or rejected, request being successful or rejected. So the last argument, which is response headers, we have to send it as a JavaScript object, and in that object we have to send our headers. You can also give human readable status message as a second argument. So let's write response.write head, status code as 200, and header as content type text or HTML. Here in this content type text HTML, we have give the two options because this is a protocol defined and some browser might not able to render everything. So it says that if either you at least render it as a text or recognize it. This is a set of options which we pass here as a JavaScript object. Now reload this, reload the browser. Now go to our network tab, reload again. Now you can see here we have seen earlier that the content type was not visible here, but now we have set our headers with this content type text HTML, so it is visible here the content type as text or HTML. Now let's move back to VS Code. Now it is not very good or ideal to send HTML as a string here. Generally, we will have an HTML file, we will read content from that file and we will send that content. So let's create an HTML file called index.html. Let's write here content h1. This is HTML file. So now how we can read this the contents of this file and serve it here in this response. So for that there is a module called fs which is called as file system module. You have to require this module which is a built-in module or inbuilt module our core module. So we require this module. Now we can use the read file sync method from this fs module to read the content of our HTML file. So let's read the content. So write file content equals fs dot read file sync. Now it has two methods of reading file: read file sync and read file only. So read file sync is a synchronous method and this is a synchronous method. In the next video I will explain you what is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous code. But right now let's use read file sync. Let's pass here our file path, which is index.html. Now let's render here our HTML file. So right here res.end file content. So we load the server, which is Nodemon automatically does for us. Let's go to browser. This is HTML file. So if we go in the network tab, text HTML, and here in local, so the content type is text HTML. Now we successfully get the content from this HTML file and serve it as a response to the client. So we can change anything, like if we and if we change something, it will automatically update it here. Let's reload the server. One thing is that if we change here anything, the server is not automatically updated because we haven't changed anything in our server.js. We have done changes in our HTML file, but this will not recognize it as changes. So here we have to press Ctrl S. So here we have to press Ctrl S so that it will save our current file and then it will reload the server. So let's go back to the browser and you can see the text is updated, the content is updated. This is how we can serve our HTML file to the any request. So this was all about how we can send HTML file as a response to our client. Hope you can understood about how we can send HTML response to the client. So that's it for this lecture. If you have any queries, then write it in the comment box. Now that's it for this lecture, and I will see you in the next video.